Your support helps us bring you programs you love. Go to wyomingpbs.org, click on Support, and become a sustaining member or an annual member. It's easy and secure. Thank you.
They do say you learn more from your failure than your successes, so we learned a lot.
You lost a local economy.
Some of us were sitting on produce and we needed to move it, so we were able to pull something together in 3 days.
Life gives you a lemon, you have to make a lemonade.
And so we just kind of went for it, you know, without really having a well thought out plan. We bought the software and we started digging in and decided to see if we could make it happen, see if we could run a weekly online marketplace.
Farmers markets, the new normal, on this farm to Fork, Wyoming.
Funding for this program was provided by the members of the Wyoming PBS Foundation. Thank you for your support.
And then this was my sticky, and that was mine.
We're really high tech.
All across Wyoming, local farmers markets woke up in March to the challenge of COVID-19.
A lot of infrastructure stuff.
So if I was to implement this, I would definitely have more forethought.
When the Cheyenne Winter Market closed, Tommy and a group of Cheyenne producers quickly went to online sales.
You know, the virus came and it was, we needed to act now, so.
They can be nimble. They can change what they do and still make those connections.
It's crazy, but I'm pretty proud of what we've achieved, though.
And in Jackson, Teton Slow Foods also grappled with how best to keep their market going.
We were running a winter farmers market every other Saturday, and it was the last market was sort of that one weekend where everyone sort of realized that this was a big deal. Gatherings of over 10 that was over.
Accustomed to running large farmers markets, Casper Food for Thought Project also realized the need for a safe alternative.
Our farmers market is awesome because it does see a lot of people. I mean, we could see between 500 to 1,000 people coming to every farmers market.
But the confusion over public policy was making all this difficult.
The irony of them closing the farmers market was you had local producers and farmers that had product that couldn't move it, and then you go to the grocery store and you saw a community wanting the same products that were available at the farmers market, and they didn't have access to it.
You lost local businesses, you lost people spending money on local businesses.
Restaurants were shutting down, hotels were shutting down, and all of a sudden the 10 or 12 producers that are within a 100-mile area, veggie producers and ranches, needed somewhere to sell their food.
This year with COVID-19, after all the restaurants closed, a lot of our first harvests were sort of up in the air as far as what we're going to do with them.
So you really stuck a stick in a bicycle tire, right? I mean, that's what happened.
Seeing what's happening in Europe, seeing what's happening in Africa and China, there's slow food chapters everywhere, and we're seeing both a lot of suffering, of course, and a lot of cracks in the foundation of the global food system.
You saw store shelves emptying of certain food items. Meat still is a huge commodity and something that a lot of people are having a hard time finding, because as soon as store shelves fill up with it, they get emptied. Now, when you know a local meat producer, you take away that dysfunction in the system, and all of a sudden you have a direct connection to your meat.
That's true. All of a sudden, if you happen to know your farmer, it's kind of a good thing.
So I think the virus really accentuated just how broken our food system is.
Around the country and in Wyoming, it became clear that going online was an opportunity to move forwards rather than back.
So we had actually looked into an online marketplace in the past, and so we had done some of the homework in advance. We knew what kind of platform we wanted to go with, and we were lucky enough that we already have this facility that we're sitting in, the farm stand, to base this thing out of. This is the Slow Food Farm Stand. So normally in the summer, this is where we operate the farm stand on Thursdays and Fridays. With the pandemic, to use the word everyone's using, we pivoted to make it so we could operate an online marketplace. So this is home base for that. Customers order Monday through Wednesday. We get their orders and we send it off to the producers Wednesday evening. They've got all day Thursday to gather up, either it's called the pick list, so they go pick their items. Yesterday, producers, they dropped off all of the food that we were going to bring and put in orders. This was full of coolers, bins, boxes of arugula, boxes of basil, coolers full of yogurt, all the veggies that are in here in bulk, labeled with which farmer it is. And on Friday mornings, we have a big crew that comes here and we organize all the orders. Send them into our walk-in cooler. There they stay for a few hours until customers arrive.
Have a great weekend. You too. Thank you.
So the most orders we fit in here is about 200. Today we have 160. I'm not sure if we got twice as many orders, what we do. So we're working on that right now because we're almost at capacity.
By early May, Casper was also into online sales.
Something that we've talked about wanting to do for about a year now, and so I guess it just took a pandemic for us to actually do it. But it's definitely met the demand that we feel that we needed to meet during this time. It helps our growers and producers to maintain their businesses, and it's something that we definitely want to continue moving forward. I love the idea of it because it's really, really easy. It's streamlined in the sense that you get all of the vendors in one place through one transaction, and then it's one pickup.
I think that the key, just like any online farmers market, not just ours, but anyone's, is having enough diversity in what is available for people to want to shop. So if you just have baked goods, people are going to be like, I can't eat gluten, or I'm not looking for that. So really, Cassandra Baker, our market manager, has been really working hard to make sure that what is being offered on our online market is diverse, so that no matter who you are, if you come on, you're going to find something you want to buy. And I think that that is really the key.
So when we first started, we started with 12 vendors, which I was pretty excited about, but I hadn't been able to add a meat vendor. And so our first week was pretty good. I want to say we had like $600 in sales total. So we were pretty excited about that. And then the meat producer came on and we pretty much doubled our numbers from there. And I think that that was hugely instrumental, not only for the success of the online marketplace, but it really speaks to the demand of what people are looking for and those staples that are essential right now. We have about 4 egg vendors. Those include vendors that are selling salad mixes and herbs and microgreens and eggs and meat. We have about 4 vendors that are selling canned goods, so that includes your fermented foods, sauerkraut, kimchi. And then we have like 4 bakers, so that'll include all of your baked goods. We also have kind of this miscellaneous group. Kombucha on there, we've got coffee, peanut butter, maple syrup.
End products like dairy can also be sold through these online models under the rules of the Food Freedom Act.
Because it's still pretty much from producer directly to consumer, we're just facilitating that middle ground. We only have 1 that's commercially inspected, and outside of that, everybody else is producer to consumer via the Wyoming Food Freedom Act and cottage law.
And in Cheyenne, Tommy's Bootstrap producer collaboration was online by the end of March.
She wasn't going to sit back and just say, okay, I guess we'll just have to wait and see what happens.
It's not just me, it's been the other vendors who've really come through and brought a lot to the table too.
It's every other week, every other Friday. These are all deliveries. So once we package them all up, they'll take theirs and go deliver them in town.
I like it when I deliver stuff. I can meet, customer individually, and they appreciate it so much.
And we're fine-tuning it every week. It gets a little bit easier and a little more organized. And each week, we've gotten more orders and increased our revenue. To the point now, after the 3rd virtual farmers market, I am doing as well as I would on a physical winter's farmers market. So that didn't take too long to recoup.
Yeah, I really like the virtual markets because when you go to a traditional farmer's market, you have no idea how much you're going to sell. So you can bring 5 pounds of a certain type of cheese and sell out within an hour or two. But when you come here, you know exactly what you're going to need.
The customers seem to really like it.
Yeah, the website that YFresh has is really easy to use, and it's a convenient pickup time for us. Either I get it or my husband gets it on his way home, and we really look forward to it.
We did send out a survey through an email and got an overall response from the customers that they'd like to see a weekly farmers market, and I just couldn't sustain that. I mean, I'm behind in my planning, and so yeah.
You take on that online farmers market as a market manager, there's a lot more work that goes into an online farmers market than there is a regular market, because you're as the market manager aggregating photos of everyone's things and getting their pricing and making sure that once orders are complete that you communicate with them. That's kind of what we're seeing. That's what we're learning right now.
I was hesitant. It seemed like a lot of work, but truly it's such a necessity right now. It is a win-win-win. It is keeping our farmers and ranchers afloat who were going to be producing anyways, and they needed a place for the food to go. It is keeping our customers buying locally, having fresh food for their kids and family. And you know, it's keeping our staff busy and feeling like we're making a difference in this kind of tumultuous time.
Although I do love, you know, the opportunity that community presents itself in at farmers markets, I also like the streamlined opportunity for people that are a little more busy.
Ordering online now in 2020 is very, you know, natural to people and a common experience.
Convenience does sell, and so I think there's a want from the community to have higher quality local food. But I mean, if they're having to, you know, meet their egg supplier on Tuesday and then, you know, their milk supplier on Thursday, it's just, you know, people have hectic lives.
Making it online has attracted different groups. It may be harder for some people who aren't used to the system, but it's pretty user-friendly, and if they don't understand it, we know we're very accessible, so they reach out to us.
I kind of look at it more of an opportunity for like SNAP users too, because particularly in Casper with our bus routes, a lot of people can't make it to the farmers market on Tuesday nights, and so they don't have that access.
And then I think it's attracted younger people. I do a lot of our marketing through social media, so people see that, and younger folks who didn't really know about our markets have utilized the online marketplace, and yeah.
But I still think the physical farmers market is definitely, yeah, it doesn't replace that. I think it augments it, because the farmers market is also an experience.
You know, we understand how important this farmers market system is, not only to consumers, but also to all of these small entrepreneurs who have food businesses. So take, for instance, Miss Patty, who has the best jams and jellies you'll ever taste. She's on Social Security, and so for her, farmers markets is really that place where she can make her jams and jellies in her home kitchen in a safe manner and sell them directly to consumer.
For Orion, it was a place to incubate a business when jobs had dried up during the crash of 2008.
Roots Kitchen Cannery started 12 years ago. We started selling pies at the market, and that became a feasible business in the summer, but then it would die off during the winter, and so the canning side of the business kind of evolved out of a need for use. We had a Good Food Award finalist last year was based off of smoked dilly beans. Those all came from somebody who dropped an order, and they had 500 pounds of little green beans, and we went after it and made a product, and it was one of our favorite products. We've seen growth around the nation, and now we're still doing farmers markets because that's kind of where we were born.
The beauty of farmers markets is that you can sell nearly anything direct from producer to consumer. So you take away a lot of those barriers that producers have for scaling up or selling, like raw milk and cheese, things that you can't buy in the grocery store because of the guidelines, right, for health and safety. And obviously they're there for a reason, But the beauty of farmers markets is being able to talk to the producer and shake their hand and ask them what they feed their animals and what does their range management look like, or any of those other questions.
It's benefiting the farmer and food producers. It's benefiting the customers who have access to high quality food, and it's benefiting the community at large, just keeping the money in the community.
Now the question is, do we, as we have this need for this product, we approach a local farmer, hey, can you grow this thing for us? And then that's assured sales for them. Yes, we're not giving them full retail, but it's assured sale, and it's definitely like allowing them to expand, hire, and produce more.
And when you have a product that is necessary for life, it is really important to have redundant and replicative and diverse supply chains that are not that vulnerable.
But if you take away that marketplace, you take away a lot of financial freedom that you're giving people with the farmers market.
Whereas when you also, I mean, it's not instead, but when you also have a strong regional and local food economies, it makes you much, much more resilient to shocks like these. So having much more scale and diversity of who is producing, processing food and selling it locally, that replication and diversity makes our food system much, much stronger and much, much more reliable. It equips people with the skills to produce their own, especially if we create systems to support people in growing their own food.
It comes back to our industrialized food system, right? If you're a food producer in Wyoming and you're trying to make a living at it, you're probably, not all the time, but probably growing a commodity, right? So it's either protein or it's beans or sugar, something that's a commodity that you can get insurance for, and then you can also get help from the government for on those years when it's lean and crazy. That's not the truth for everything. And you as a producer, no matter the size, are taking a huge risk by becoming a local producer, because you don't have all of those safety nets of the industrialized food system. But if you are able to do it even just a little bit at a time, in the end, I think it's going to pay off in spades, not only for yourself as a producer, but for the community at large.
And so it's like anything we can do to kind of make that positive feedback cycle, if you will, more robust is I think, a win for our community and a win for the food industry.
The other really important piece about farmers markets that I see, especially related to meat production, is that, you know, if you are a country kid, if you grew up on a ranch, you know how to source local meat from your neighbors or your friends, but I'm a city girl. And the whole concept of buying a half a beef is pretty hard to imagine. And so I think that the beauty of farmers markets for meat producers especially is they have an opportunity to educate a lot of these consumers that are so used to just going to the grocery store and picking up that piece of meat and never asking questions about where it came from or how it was made. And so instead, they have an education process, they're more connected to their food, and then they're way more likely to buy more local food, to maybe buy that half of beef, and to start telling other people about it. So it's really an important mechanism for perpetuating the local food economy.
But the issue right now is coming down to the mechanism of processing. And so that's the biggest issue, and that's the biggest hang up right now, is that people are trying to shuffle things around just because there's such a high demand for that food that we're not meeting it on the processing end.
So in Wyoming, our main production is animals, beef, right, cattle, in terms of our agricultural sector. And unfortunately, we don't really have the slaughter capacity in state to handle the processing. So we might raise the cattle here, but often we still ship them off to feedlots out of state, and certainly ship them off to slaughter out of state. So there's a lot of room for increasing our local meat supply just on that alone. Even as buyers are paying more and more at the market for their beef, the ranchers, they're actually getting less money per pound for their meat than they were getting before COVID, even though prices are rising and supply is scarce.
That's a big piece of this as well. So not just knowing who your producer is and having that trust connection, but also 8 to 10 cents of every dollar is going to the producer, and the rest just goes into the distribution system.
right? It was already a hard way to make a living, and equally so for what we bizarrely call specialty crops, i.e. the fruits and vegetables that are supposed to be half our plate, are called specialty crops by the USDA. So whether you're producing beef or eggs or fruits and vegetables, it is a hard way to make a living, both in terms of the labor, but increasingly financially, to literally be able to sell at a price that makes the farmer a living. And that is a huge problem. And you see that problem magnify in a pandemic like this, how fragile the very, very efficient industrial food system we have, right? Of you might have a calf-cow operation, but you ship off your cows to a feedlot in another state, and they get slaughtered by one of the 4 meat industry companies that handle 80% of our beef. They have an oligopoly, sort of a slightly expanded version of a monopoly on beef processing, and it squeezes the producer prices down to where they are not even necessarily making a living. It's turned our pork, our pig, chicken, and beef ranchers and farmers more into indentured farmer servants, right, who are growing for these few corporations that control that channel.
It has a lot to do with regulation and cost, and it became a heck of a lot easier just to throw your cows on a truck and ship them out of state and never see them again than it was to go through the entire process of finishing them, processing them, and all of that.
But I think Wyoming's really making progress and has some great ability to continue to grow that area, just because I think our legislation has done some wonderful work with the Food Freedom Act, and we have some wonderful legislatures that continue to work on this.
This COVID situation has definitely shone a light on why returning to local is a great solution.
It's not going to make you rich. It should make you a living, right? If we don't set up our food system so that you need to be able to make a living by growing food for your community, or else we're going to starve, like I said. And we have to have it so that you're growing food in a way that isn't degrading the soil and isn't using up our water, right? So that's even more expensive to grow, and that makes the food prices that on the other end even higher. We have this struggle in the United States with thinking, we have to keep food cheap so poor people can afford it. And that is a very dangerous frame because, one, it means that it's very poor quality food on the whole if it's that cheap, and it's making people very sick, which is why the majority of U.S. adults have at least one chronic health condition, which costs us so much more than paying more for good food. The other problem with keeping food, that frame or that policy of, we need to keep food cheap so poor people can afford it, it means that farmers can't make a living. Farmers need to get a bigger share of the dollar, and the amount of dollars we spend for our food should probably be higher. In most of the world, people spend in the developing world, people spend about 1/3 of their incomes feeding their families to afford food. And in the US, it's less than 10%. We'll spend it on a latte from a fancy coffee place, maybe, but we expect our groceries to be very cheap. And that is creating a vicious cycle that's putting our farmers and ranchers out of business and making us all sick.
We feel like that's not a great model. So there's a lot of really cool food disruption going on, and every step that it goes down that path, I think, is good for any step that brings the producer closer to the consumer, I think, is a good model.
I really think Wyoming's poised to do more decentralizing and localizing, and that's how you're going to bring health to the community, to offer high quality products.
You can argue with experts all you want to, but this is probably the first of another series of pandemics that may or may not happen. And whether they do and whether they don't, wouldn't it make more sense to be prepared and build the systems now that can not only help us if another pandemic does happen, but also helps reach more people, right? So circling back to that, farmers markets are only for a finite amount of time every week. You run into a lot of issues with people who maybe don't have transportation or are working or a million other reasons that they can't make it to the farmer's market. But you take it online and all of a sudden, as soon as you give someone access via the internet, they can now shop their local farmer's market. So we really foresee this online marketplace being something that we continue after the COVID crisis is over. And Cassandra Baker is really looking at how can we make it even more accessible. So we've started partnering with delivery services here in Casper to, even if you can't come pick up during the pickup time, you can now have the delivery service bring it to your home or office. So it's really as easy as Amazon, but it's local. You're feeding your neighbors. You're not giving your money to the richest man in the world. So it's a pretty exciting prospect.
It feels like we might continue this throughout the entire year as sort of a hybrid approach. You can pre-order maybe your frozen food or your dry food in advance and then come shop the fresh produce. And so you can see it and choose what you want. So I see that as a potential hybrid approach where we can keep this going. We'll just have to figure out the logistics. But what I don't want to see happen is farmers markets to go away, right? Like, there's so much value in knowing meeting your producer, your farmer, your rancher, and knowing who's making your food, who's growing your food. And so we got to keep that too,
This episode of Farm to Fork Wyoming is available. Order online at shop.wyomingpbs.org. This program was produced by Wyoming PBS, which is solely responsible for its content. To learn more and watch Wyoming PBS programs online, visit us at wyomingpbs.org.